Please don't panic, but do pay attention because there's a confusing thing showing up in some Social Security payment histories that has a lot of people talking. Some retirees say they've noticed an unexpected deposit or a strange notation tied to an adjustment, and they've heard it described as Code 92. The reason this matters is simple. Whenever the Social Security Administration changes a payment after the fact, it can mean your record was corrected, your amount was recalculated, or money you were owed finally got released. That can be a few dollars, or it can be a much bigger correction depending on the situation. Now, let's be clear and careful here. Social Security has many internal processing labels and accounting markers that most people never see, and not every rumor about a secret code is reliable. Sometimes a code people mention online is real but misunderstood. Sometimes it's a shorthand used by a bank, a payment processor, or an internal office note, not an official public program. What is real, though, is that retroactive adjustments do happen. Underpayments get corrected. Cost of living increases sometimes get applied late to certain cases. Earnings records get updated. Survivor benefits get recomputed. Disability benefits can convert to retirement benefits. And when those changes happen, the payment history can look different than what you're used to, sometimes without a clear, plain English explanation. Think about how much trust people place in this system. You work for decades, you pay in, and you assume the monthly amount is final and correct. Most of the time it is. But the system is huge and it runs on formulas, wage records, filing dates, family benefits, and ongoing updates. Even a small mismatch, like a delayed earnings update or a benefit category change that didn't fully process on time, can cause the agency to reconcile your record later. When that happens, it may show up as a one-time deposit, a retroactive payment, or a new monthly amount that seems to change out of nowhere. Here's how these adjustments commonly happen in the real world. A person checks their bank account and sees a deposit that isn't the usual monthly amount. Or the deposit arrives on a different day than expected. Or the monthly payment increases more than they thought it would. Sometimes they later find a notice in their online account. Sometimes a letter arrives weeks after, and sometimes the explanation is buried in technical language that doesn't feel like an explanation at all. That's where the confusion starts, and that confusion is exactly what scammers and rumor pages love to exploit. So instead of treating Code 92 like a magic key, the smartest approach is to treat it like a signal to double-check your record. If you see any unfamiliar code, notation, or unexplained change, the practical question is not, what's the viral story behind this? The practical question is, what changed in my benefit calculation, and is my current amount correct? There are several situations where people are more likely to see a correction. If you're a widow or widower and your survivor benefit was calculated based on a complicated timing rule, adjustments can occur if the agency later corrects a record detail. If you had years of earnings that were missing or listed incorrectly and you fixed your earnings record, back pay can be triggered once the correction is accepted. If you move between disability benefits and retirement benefits or your benefit type changed, recalculations can appear. If you received benefits that depend on another person's record, like a spouse benefit, changes to that worker's record can sometimes cascade into your amount. And if there was a broader update to how a category of cases was processed, that can also result in multiple people seeing corrections around the same time. This is why you might hear people across different states describing similar experiences. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a single dramatic, insider-only payment code being activated. It can simply mean that a batch of cases was reprocessed, a queue of older corrections was cleared, or a particular update finally moved through the system. The outcome for you is what matters. Whether you were underpaid, whether you were overpaid, and whether your ongoing monthly amount is accurate going forward. Now let's talk about what a correction can look like when it hits your account. Sometimes it's a one-time deposit with a short label. Sometimes it's a deposit paired with a notice that says something like adjustment, retroactive payment, or recalculation. Sometimes it's a notice that your monthly amount is changing because your benefit was recomputed. In a few cases, people can see both, a lump sum amount to catch up past months, and then a new monthly amount that stays higher. In other cases, the lump sum appears, but the monthly amount stays the same because the correction was for a past period only. If you're on a tight fixed income, the emotional impact of this is huge. When money shows up without a clear explanation, it can feel like relief mixed with anxiety. You wonder if it's real. You worry it might be a mistake. You worry they'll take it back. Those are valid concerns, and that's why the next step should always be verification, not assumptions. The good news is you can check most of what you need directly through your official Social Security account. If you've never set one up, it's worth doing, not just for this issue, but for peace of mind in general. Your online account can show benefit verification letters, payment history, and messages or notices. It can also help you confirm whether a deposit actually came from the Social Security Administration versus a private pension, a bank credit, or something else that only looks similar. Start by going to the official site and logging into your account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Once you're in, review your payment history carefully. Look for anything that doesn't match your normal monthly amount or normal schedule. If you see an extra deposit, write down the date, the amount, and any label that appears. If you see a different monthly amount starting in a particular month, note the first month it changed. If there is any message, notice, or downloadable letter, open it and read it slowly because the explanation is often there, even if it's not written in the clearest language. Next, compare what you received to what you were told to expect. Your benefit letter or online statement typically lists your monthly benefit amount, and sometimes it will mention when changes take effect. If your deposit is higher, check whether it aligns with a known adjustment, like a cost of living increase that started at the beginning of the year, or a change in Medicare premiums that affected your net deposit. Sometimes what looks like a mysterious increase is actually a premium change, a withholding change, or an adjustment to deductions. If you still see something that doesn't add up, the next move is to contact the Social Security Administration directly using the official number and official channels. You can call the national number at 1-800-772-1213. When you call, be ready to explain exactly what you saw, including the date and the amount, and ask a direct question. Whether your benefit was recomputed, whether a retroactive adjustment was issued, and what period the adjustment covers. If you've heard the phrase Code 92, you can mention that you saw people discussing it and you want to know what internal reason code, if any, was attached to your adjustment. The goal is not to argue about the code. The goal is to get the plain language reason for the payment change. Also remember this important point. Scammers thrive on confusion around Social Security. The real Social Security Administration will not call you out of the blue, demanding immediate payment, threatening arrest, or asking you to buy gift cards, wire money, or share sensitive login information. If anyone contacts you claiming you must confirm a code or unlock a payment by providing your bank details, Social Security number, or a one-time password, treat it as a red flag. Verify everything through the official website and the official phone number, and never use a number someone else gives you in a message or comment thread. If you're worried about a correction window, don't let that fear paralyze you. What you can do is document everything and ask for clarity as soon as you notice a discrepancy. Take screenshots of your payment history, save your letters, and keep a small notebook of who you spoke with and when. If the agency tells you the adjustment is legitimate, ask whether your ongoing monthly amount is now correct and whether any additional notices will arrive. If they tell you it was an overpayment or an error, ask what will happen next and what your options are, including repayment terms or appeal rights, because those situations do exist too. It also helps to understand how tiny errors add up over time. Even a small percentage difference can become a meaningful amount over multiple years. That's why it's worth checking your earnings record occasionally, especially if you worked for many years, changed jobs often, or had self-employment income. Your earnings record is the foundation of your benefit calculation. If an earnings year is missing or understated, it can lower your monthly benefit, and fixing it can trigger a recomputation and possibly retroactive money, depending on the circumstances. For many people, the most powerful step is simply becoming consistent about reviewing your record. Once a month, when your deposit hits, compare it to your expected amount. Once or twice a year, log in and download your benefit verification letter and keep it. If anything changes unexpectedly, address it early. The system is easier to navigate when you're acting from documentation rather than from guesswork. And if you're doing this not just for yourself, but for a parent, grandparent, or someone you care about, your support can make a huge difference. Many seniors don't feel comfortable with online accounts, passwords, or digital letters. Helping them check the official payment history, organize letters, and make a verification call can turn a confusing situation into a clear answer in a single afternoon. At the end of the day, what matters most is this. If you see an unfamiliar label like Code 92, don't assume it's a jackpot and don't assume it's a mistake. Treat it as a prompt to verify. Corrections can be real, adjustments can be owed, but the only trustworthy explanation is the one you can confirm through your official Social Security record and a direct answer from the agency. You worked for these benefits. You paid into the system. You deserve transparency and accuracy. So take a breath, check your account, document what you see, and if something looks off, reach out through the official channels until you get a clear explanation you can trust.